Let's go through a base building guide for Dune Awakening. We'll go through some basics. I'll give you guys some suggestions on where you want to consider for placing the best bases or the best kind of locations and areas that you want to go in. Best is completely subjective, being as rule of cool always wins, and being that you can expand how big your base is really shouldn't be too big of an issue if you go somewhere that you don't want to. And there is a way of shortcutting around the map as well to make travel quicker later on. So if you see a spot that you really like, that should realistically be the position you go in, regardless whether it's early or late game. In any case, I've got a few materials here to get myself started, just so that we can go through some things. Obviously, the game already tells you we select the construction menu, so we get the construction tool, and now we're able to place things around in our square here after we have based the sub-thief. Now, something it doesn't really tell you in terms of like a tip is obviously when it comes to this kind of thing, you are going to need some kind of measurement if you want this to be kind of accurate. So something that you can do, if you get it slightly wrong, you can break this and then you can go ahead and you can replace it down. You see my stuff doesn't just disappear there. We can in fact just kind of bring that up like this. Like you can see we're just on the side and we're just going to try and get that corner as close as we can to that block right there. So we're just going to line up the corner of the base there. This is how you're going to get like the best amount of space and have everything in your base nicely lined up. We're going to go ahead, we're going to hold that down so we can place it. And now that's my sub-thief back down. And then when I bring this up, we'll see that's going to be much closer to the corner. You can do this either way you want to do it. So you could either move the block or move the sub-thief. But that basically stays there until the sandstorm destroys it. So you can have plenty of time to get that done. But now that we've got that lined up, if you're going to try and get the precise stuff going on there, that's just going to help you turn that into something. Coming into controls here as well. I better be quick because slaves are coming now that my cat's disturbed me. We are well behind. But anyway, once you've gotten your base lined up where you want it, you can then build off of this in any direction that you want to. I'm also not being too precise for this because I'm not intending on keeping it. Just bear in mind that whichever item it is does need to be wholly within the base to be counted as protected. So just bear in mind, someone's being chased by a snake. And then from there, what I would suggest that you do, wherever it is you actually want to build within your base, measure it off of this. All right, you don't actually need to fully build it. You can just put the blueprint down. And then, for example, say I want to build my base right here. I can go ahead and I can get rid of these. You see on the right hand side there, we have these little clickers. So to get rid of these, I'll need to switch to demolish, and then we can remove those. Then I have this now. I'm also able to move this out of the way, so we don't need to have this in the middle of our base here. We just say that we're going to start out by having this be our base. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put the 4 tiles down. Now, when it comes to your first base and the small sub-thief, I think maybe even just a 2x1 might be enough, because realistically, I think the best use for your sub-thief is to move it around early game so that you can constantly have a little bit of shelter that's easy to maneuver with yourself. Put a couple of bits in there if you need to like process some materials or something like this, but I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. Of course, then you need to get some walls on there. I'm going to do this quickly just so that we are not going to get caught out by the sun. I'm probably not really too bothered about whether or not we fill all the walls in. Then, of course, across the roof, give yourself some basic shelter. Now, let's see how this affects something. If you see in the bottom left corner, I'm actually waterlocked right now. That means we actually have enough shelter right here so that we don't actually need any more to feel waterlocked. So if I walk out here, you can see that shield comes off. If I come back in here, we count as being waterlocked. That means that at this point, my water isn't going to go down anymore whilst I'm moving around in the base. Maybe that goes on a little bit easier if we have it more secure in there. But just something that's worth noting is, you know, if you're in your base like that, as long as you've got it reasonably sheltered, you shouldn't have to worry about your water going down anymore. Looking at other controls then, we obviously have all of the different items that we can see here. I'm not really going to detail everything crazy, but just note that along the top there, we have the 4 different dividers. So we have the placeables. This is actually where all the important stuff is, where the game defaults you. Now, the annoying thing can be that in this favorites part, it always defaults to this brick. And I think people prefer to use the Choam stuff, which is the white stuff. And then it just has like a few bits and bobs in this favorites tab, which I don't think many people want. This does have all of your utilities, fabricators, refineries, and storage though. So this is your general purpose. You're building all of the important stuff around your base. Across from that, we have furniture. This is where your lights are. I've been told by a few people that apparently the lights are limited, so just be careful about how many of these you place around. Apparently, these come at a bit of a premium if you're not careful, okay? Things like furniture, decor, so you've got some decorations, some of this kind of stuff in here. Then as you can see, as we come across, we have the 2 different styles. And when you actually get into one of these proper, even in the sandstone version, you have all of the proper slopes and things like the rounded corners if you want those, because they can look a bit nicer. Of course, when it comes to moving things, we have the move. I actually know what the piece picker does. I've never used it. And then, of course, if something gets damaged by the weather, we also have the repair, and we already used the demolish. So that's the controls covered. Let's talk about locations then. So we're going to do a bit of map scrubbing here. Firstly, where you can see my base is where I suggest you set up your very first initial initial sub-fief when you're in the early areas of the game. Anywhere along this northern part in the middle, I think, is the best place to go. This is because this gives you easy access to the vendors. This is something that I think should be a priority pretty much at all times you go through the game. If you're close to one of these, the biggest advantage, especially before you have an ornithopter, is you can actually fast travel between them. It's only 750 Solari at a time, so if I didn't have a helicopter right now, I would actually be able to immediately fast travel back up to the top here because there's a fast travel point there, and there is also another one up at the top, as you can see, and then another one all the way over on the west. So I do recommend being close to one of those. There's a lot of traveling in this game, and especially before you don't have your ornithopter, it can be a bit of pain in getting around. So being close to a trade post should always be a consideration. Additionally, where I am right now, you can see there's plenty of water. Now, there seems to be people that like to try and gate water off, so just be aware of that. If you do see some water, if you want to claim your own, or like I'm probably going to do with this, I'm probably going to leave my sub-fief here, so this can never be locked off. There will always be some water available at the beginning of the game. And we are also close to the testing station and the wreck. Now, these are important because this is where you're going to get certain materials. It's actually the same type of materials pretty much all the way through the game. Like if I highlight over the next one, you can see it's the same plasteel and microfiber. If I then go to an even later one, still the same right there. If we go to an even later one, still the same right there. So as you can see, gathering those is very important. And if you're going to spend some time just, leveling up or going around doing stuff, nipping in these a few times to get those extra materials early on is going to be useful for you. After a while, when you've done your initial adventuring, it's going to send you to the north to the Vermilius Gap. Again, the game kind of wants you to spend quite a bit of time here. It's up to you guys. The game also encourages you to abandon your previous base to continue the story. Obviously, you can go ahead and do that if you want to, or you can abandon it just to get the proc and then put your sub-fief straight back down again so you can keep the spot. And again, you can see where our next base was, just to the south. Probably would have been better to the north of it. This is because initially it's going to send you out this way a few times, so you're going to go all over the Vermilius Gap. But then a lot of the time, your next missions are either going to be in this central, and this map really is struggling. So yeah, when it comes to your second base, then I do recommend. Oh, the map sorted itself out. That's very nice. When it comes to your second base, then yeah, I do recommend north of the second settlement, just because it's going to send you out across the Vermilius Gap quite a lot. Ultimately, a lot of the time, it's going to be sending you through this large tunnel. As you can see, I've still got some left. There's quite a lot of quests that come into this Afreet area, and basically, if you just cross over the sand and then follow this down, you can get into there rather easily. So just north of the second settlement is a pretty good spot, and then after that, you might be looking for your final spot where you want to actually build your big proper base. So the things that I think you should take into account are, like I said before, proximity to a settlement, and then how many different types of resources you can get. So there's something that I want to show you guys on the map here, and that is you can see the resource densities are at 1, 2, and 3. So the higher that number is, so the closer to the top, that's how dense each of those individual resources is. I don't know what each and every symbol says, but what I do know is the more borders you are close to with your base, the more resources you have access to, which means in terms of raw resources, this little square tab right here is probably the best spot in the game because we have access to aluminium and late game materials just to the north of it. We also have things like the research stations just up here as well. We have access to the high level weapon parts that we need. So these compressors, these go into your high level weapons. That's what you need to build them. You also then have access to any building material you want because we've got basalt up here, and just across you can see we have high access to granite, we have access to copper and everything else. And in addition to that, we are also very close to the tunnel, which we need to get cobalt. In case you don't know, there's a thing called ethrosite crystals. These are big glowy red crystals, and they are also essential to a lot of your buildings, especially in the later game. The only things that you're going to be a little bit away from is the diamond dust, which is down here in the snake. So just be aware of that. But I'm going to show you guys in a second that you can actually get there very quickly, which is why the third consideration, in my opinion, is being close to the border. The reason you want to be close to a border is because as we're coming up to this edge here, and I'm just going to show you guys that I'm right at the very north, okay? I'm going to show you guys how quickly I can get to the south by using this. We're obviously going to exit into the world map. And now all I need to do is loop around. And as if by magic, we are now in the south of the map. So you see how fast that is to get around the edges of the map? So long as your base is close to the edge of the map, getting to things like the irradiated area, which is good for the highest grade materials we can get on the Haga Basin, and getting to the snake for the diamond dust is going to be significantly quicker. As you can see right here, that took seconds, and we are now in the south. And if I want to get back to the north, where my base is close to, I just head on straight back out, and it takes almost no time whatsoever. A little bit of advice when it comes to building your base bigger base then. Now, of course, mine is unfinished, so please excuse that it doesn't exactly look beautiful right now. But the first thing is that you are going to want to have a place to land your air vehicles. So I do recommend having one of these shields up at the top. If you bring out the build menu, this is called Pentashield. They're quite cheap to make. I don't know if I can place one right now. You just need a little bit of cobalt, as you can see. And the cool thing is, these are pretty much just like drag and build. So for very little resources, you can have this as big or as small as you want it, as you can see right here. So just make sure you have those in the places where you want them to be. As you can see, they can be horizontal or vertical, so you can do this however you want. I haven't tested whether or not that power amount that they're taking is per tile or per build. Hopefully it's per build, otherwise you're going to be using up a lot of power. And additionally, we obviously haven't got it finished here yet, but I can show this in our garage downstairs. You will want to have storage wherever your vehicles are. This is because if you're carrying a lot of something back, so if you're taking out, man, he got that broke, didn't he? If you're taking a vehicle out and bringing back lots of material, like let's say you're going on an aluminium run and you've got like 2,000 pounds of aluminium, you are going to want to be able to drop that off quickly. Otherwise, you're going to run into trouble when you're trying to take it up and down stairs. And whilst we're talking about storage, I'd like to show you guys that up in the top left, we can actually change the inventory that we are looking at, which can make it a lot quicker for us to offload from our vehicles once we get back. Get used to the idea of needing a lot of water, so make sure you're building lots of water tanks, because a lot of the later game materials require water to filter out. So the more water you have, the more you store up, the better your time is going to be. So just make sure that you have facilities for storing that. And as quickly as possible, you want to be changing your energy generation over to the wind farms, because they take the same amount of power to power per hour. So if you look at this, you can't really see how this divides down right now, but basically each fuel cell will power this for 1 hour, and that obviously then provides 75 power, as you can see. Now, when it comes to the wind turbine, this takes a lubricant, which costs 1 fuel and 1 water to make inside the fuel refinery, and that still takes 1 hour to fuel, but as you can see, provides 150 instead. Now, maybe fuel is easier to get than water, in your opinion, but that's up to you. Okay, you can either take up loads of space, build loads of power plants, and then keep on getting more and more fuel, or you can choose to get up to the higher level turbines and use less fuel in exchange for a bit of water. I'll leave that up to you guys, I guess. 2 more things left for us to talk about then. First off, we have the sub-thief console. It's worth looking at this, mostly because we're able to refuel all of the generators from this. So if you just want to quickly get your generators refueled, you can add fuel to that, and that'll just do that nice and quickly for you. Additionally, you get to set this as your respawn location, and if you have any taxes to pay, you'll pay them right here. As you can see, there's a couple of bits that we need to go over. My tax amount here, 12k a week, is pretty high, and I'll show you guys why in a second, as we'll finish on making the base size bigger. Because you pay that once a week and it should be all good. Even as a larger base like mine, it's really not all that expensive. It shouldn't be too difficult for you to get 12k a week, if I'm honest. And if you do want to make your base massive, the thing that you need to do is come to your survival fabricator, where you have these staking units, and all you need to do with those when you have them is you basically just attach them to the side of your base, and that allows you to make something truly, let's go with monstrous, like what we've built here. If you would like to come and play with us, feel free to join the Discord. I'll leave a link in the description. I haven't done that for a long time, but been to playing Dune for the month. If you guys want to come and join in with us, we're on the Daedros server. We'll be more than happy to have you guys along for the ride. Last part then, how to extend your base size. Now, I don't exactly have all of the things available to me right now, but we do have this just so I can show you guys. Have the vertical staking kit. The way this works is you put this on a piece of your land and it'll extend it out either horizontally or vertically. So in my case, because this is a vertical one, I will need to place it down somewhere. And basically this will extend my claim either up or down, depending on where I put it. Okay, so you can see that the bottom of my claim is right here. If I was to place this down like we have done above, you can see right here, this brings the claim further down so that you can have your base be fairly big. Ours started over at the ramp over there, so we put it across with the horizontal ones by sticking it to the side of the wall, and then we bring it down using the floors, and that gives you lots of space to work with when it comes to building up your base and making it look however you want it to look.